As the Biden administration asked the Supreme Court to keep the CDC's eviction moratorium, 56% of small landlords haven't been paid rent, which has caused rent prices to skyrocket. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have some interesting news for you today, and it's all about the eviction moratorium. Of course, it's the main issue that I like to focus on this channel because it impacts landlords all across the country, and it's just absolutely awful. So obviously the Biden administration wants to keep this thing in place, and obviously there is a lot of opposition to it being in place right now. But before I get into these articles, go ahead, hit that like and subscribe button. Maybe leave a comment down below and let me know what you think of this Biden administration argument for the eviction moratorium. If you think it's just a bunch of malarkey or if you agree with it. So anyway, let's get into the first article here. And it says, Biden asked Supreme Court to keep CDC eviction ban in place. And it's coming to us from fox6now.com. President Joe Biden is asking the U.S. Supreme Court to keep an eviction moratorium in place as many families struggle amid the COVID-19 pandemic. The Biden administration filed the court document Monday in response to a group of Alabama and Georgia landlords asking the court to vacate the ban last Friday. The Supreme Court has the case after a 3-judge panel of the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia rejected a bid by landlords to overturn the ban. Yeah, I covered the fact that the appeals court basically rejected the bid to overturn the ban, and that was just on last Friday. So this is actually moving along pretty quickly now that it's already getting up to the Supreme Court. So that's good news for landlords, and I hope that the Supreme Court sees things we're saying and says that, hey, this is unconstitutional. But obviously the Biden administration is going to fight this tooth and nail, and they're going to do everything they can, pull out all the stops trying to keep this in place. The Biden administration allowed an earlier moratorium to lapse on July 31st, saying it had no legal authority to allow it to continue. But the U.S. Center for Disease Control and Prevention issued a new moratorium days later as pressure mounted from lawmakers and others to help vulnerable renters stay in their homes as the Delta variant of the coronavirus surged. Biden then changed his stance. Yeah, he changed his mind from political pressure. It had absolutely nothing to do with the coronavirus, and that's pretty obvious from the statements that he made on video, when he put this new CDC eviction moratorium in place. Now he's using the CDC as an excuse, basically, to keep something in place that he put in there for economic reasons, okay? And whether it was for economic reasons or if it was for, what they claim it was for, which was to prevent spread of the coronavirus, it is still unlawful, unconstitutional, okay? And that is what I want to come out from this Supreme Court, okay? I want them to just come out and say, hey, these things are not legal. Now, let's see what the excuse let's read the detail about their excuse. New evidence suggests that the Delta variant is more than twice as transmissible as the original strains of SARS-CoV-2, that even vaccinated individuals who become infected with the Delta variant may transmit the virus to others, and that the Delta variant may increase the risk of breakthrough infections among vaccinated persons, the document continued. The CDC put the initial ban in place as part of the COVID-19 response when jobs shifted and many workers lost income. The ban was intended to hold back the spread of the virus among people put out on the streets and into shelters, but it also penalized landlords who lost income as a result. But the Alabama Association of Realtors argued that the CDC shouldn't have the authority to issue a ban and that the ban puts a burden on landlords. National Apartment Association President and CEO Bob Pinniger said the organization has always held the same position. The eviction moratorium is an unfunded government mandate that forces housing providers to deliver a costly service without compensation and saddles renters with insurmountable debt. Yeah, very clear, okay? And those are the exact reasons why we don't need this kind of thing in place, okay? And the CDC never had the authority to issue such a ban, okay? If they wanted to make sure that tenants didn't get evicted from their properties, then they should have immediately paid rent to the landlords, who to keep those people in their properties. But they didn't do that. Instead, they put the eviction ban in place first, and then they put in a long time later, then they put in the rental assistance, but they put no system in place to actually distribute the rental assistance to the landlords, which left it up to the states and local governments, which dragged their feet, taking months on end. Heck, people who applied months ago in many cases still haven't received a dime. So we're talking about people who, they could be out of rent for more than a year and they haven't received any rental assistance. This isn't a temporary little thing. This is enough to destroy many businesses. And that's what my big gripe with all this stuff is, okay? So we knew the Biden administration would be fighting it, but what exactly is this going to cause, right? This is going to cause basically housing prices to go up. Okay, and it's going to be harder and more expensive for tenants to rent properties, and that's what this second article I have goes into, okay? And it says here, and it comes from messengerinquirer.com, housing hunt turns to desperation with record rise in U.S. rents. Okay, now I'm sure they didn't see this coming, but guess what? A lot of people are getting out of the landlord business because of this eviction moratorium stuff. They're like, why do I want to put up with tenants who aren't paying and I'm going to have to pay all their bills for them and they get to stay for free, they get to keep their stimulus check and I can't get rid of them indefinitely? No, landlords are selling, they're getting out of business. So let's see what this article says. Soaring prices, competition, desperation, the dramatic conditions for U.S. home buyers during the past year are now spilling into the market for rentals. Landlords from Tampa, Florida to Memphis, Tennessee and Riverside, California are jacking up rents at record speeds. For each listing, multiple people apply. Some renters are forced to check into hotels while they hunt after losing out too many times. Any desirable rental is going within hours, just like the desirable sale, said Shannon Dopkins, a realtor in Tampa. One woman passed on a place that was beat up with water damage. Somebody else decided to rent it. Okay, so yeah, it sounds like the rental market right now, if you're renting out a house, and you're a landlord who has empty property, you are going to get top dollar for those rents. And this is all across the country. But it was mostly caused by, basically a shortage caused by the eviction moratorium. And it even says it here in the article. And I'm going to skip down to this paragraph where it mentions it. It says, eviction bans also are playing a role in keeping the market tight because about 6% of tenants are normally forced to vacate each year. Zandy estimates the country's shortage of affordable rentals is the worst since at least the post-World War II period. So yeah, right now, the tenants who normally would be moving out of properties and the normal turnover that occurs, it's not happening because these tenants are allowed to stay indefinitely, okay? They've been allowed to stay 19 months longer in some cases than they would have otherwise. So the tenants who would have been moving into those properties, now they can't find a place. So they're basically clogging up the system with all these people who are protected with the eviction moratorium. And that's a huge problem because guess what? Housing prices are rising, okay? Rental housing prices are rising a lot. And let's see how much this article says they are rising because, okay, rents on newly signed leases surged 17% in July when compared to what the prior tenant paid, reaching the highest level on record, according to RealPage. The gains reflect competition for a resource that's ever more difficult to obtain, somewhere to live. With prices soaring in the for sale market and bidding wars proliferating, would-be buyers are on the losing end are being forced back into rentals, okay? So yeah, a lot of the people who were buying, now they are looking for rentals and they can't find them because this eviction moratorium, the eviction bans, all this stuff is clogging up the system. So yeah, this is a man-made crisis. This is absolutely crazy how all the far-reaching effects of the things that are going on right now. So I hope that this court case with the Supreme Court, it gets resolved, because there's just no way that a lot of landlords are going to be able to survive. And overall, this ends up bad for the tenants too. When they're not able to find a place to rent, or they just find it is just too expensive for them. It's just going to be bad overall. And I just don't want to see this world coming into, a more socialist place where the government has to be the one paying the rent for the majority of the people.